Hello, Professor, and anybody else who may be viewing this, maybe helping you grade or using it as an example for future classes. So this is my presentation for my adapted book. My adapted story is Dylan the Dragon and the Playground Ride. So this is the cover page. I'll submit the original as well as the complete copy of the adapted version. Unfortunately, I ran out of my summer money last week due to me and my kids' vehicle breaking down. So since this isn't for my actual classroom, I couldn't use school funds or supplies, and I didn't have money to get lamination sheets or spine for my binder, but let's just pretend that this is all laminated and I have my binding machine. It has its spine, so I shorten this quite a bit because you could scaffold a lot in an elementary classroom. So I would just introduce it to the students, ask them what they see, and this could be like our book for the week. It did not tape that good. Of course, if I had my proper stuff, it would be better attached. But so then we would move on to the title page. And this is where I would bring in one of my props. Hello, I am Dylan. What is your name? And the students would interact with Dylan, tell Dylan his name, their name, and then I would introduce them to titles. Did you know that books have names? It's also known as the title. This title is Dylan the Dragon and the Playground Ride. You can see a book right next to it. That's your cue to remember this is the name of the book, also called the title. The person who writes a book is known as the author. What do you use to write a book or to write in general? Yes, you could use a pencil and write by the author's name, Zanny Matthew. There's a pencil, so you have two cues. There's a book by the title. There's a pencil by the author. And then I did attach, very poorly for this demonstration, but just some pipe cleaner. I purposely used the same color, and I did the top, then the side, and the bottom. I think that's the one that fell. I would use a hot glue gun if I had my lamination sheet so they would stick better. But purposely did it in these positions because students who maybe can't really do that pinching to grab a page and turn it, they could grab from the top. Again, if it's laminated, this would be more sturdy. You could also use this like sensory if you had a student that isn't very good at just sitting and listening. You could have them sit next to you and tell them, ooh, touch this. That may keep them occupied for a page or two. Then as they lost interest, maybe try to run off, you could grab another one that's a different color and it's straight and be like, ooh, why don't you touch this one? They play with it for a little bit. So in essence, you're kind of having like a mini one-on-one regarding comparing and contrasting and like touch, how things feel. So you could have that. If it was laminated, it may be easier for a student to turn the page. Again, they could just choose from the top. There is more than one top, so you could kind of take the 3 pages, and with it being binding, you could fold the rest back so they could easily grasp it and turn it. So that's that page. Then we just got into the story. The gist of the story is that Dylan is a dragon. He lives on a mountain, and he's lonely. He doesn't have anything to do. So he goes and flies down below to a playground to see if the children want to play with him The children are scared of him at first, but Dylan decides to show them that his wings aren't all that scary. You know, he can hide them. And then once they weren't scared anymore, he just explains that his wings are just like birds, that they help him fly, but because he's way bigger than a bird, that's why his wings are bigger. And then the children are excited to have this friend that's able to fly, and then they ask if they can get a ride. And so then every day he flies down below to the children on the playground and give them a ride. And so everybody's happy. But what I did in the story, I have 4 vocabulary words that we'd focus on, and I color coordinated everything. I don't know how well you can tell. Yeah, you can tell the difference. Like playground is green, mountains is purple, Dylan is blue, children is red. Those are our 4 vocabulary words, and I coordinated it in the story. So every time you see Dylan, it's blue. Kind of hard to tell via this video with the sunlight being on, and then I also did a picture. So when you're asking questions, who is Dylan, or where is Dylan, can you touch Dylan? And then I have props to remind you, or remind the student. You can hold it up, and then they're like, oh, they could touch the word Dylan that matches, or even touch the picture. I have these additional props as well that correspond with each vocabulary word. Again, you could always scaffold. I mean, there's unlimited scaffolding that you could do. If the students are still learning their colors and stuff, you'll be like, what colors do you see? Like, hold up 2 different ones. Can you touch the purple? Yeah, they would touch the purple. Same thing if they're learning their letters. You could have another set of vocabulary words, and then if your letter was M for that week, you could have yarn over it, have them trace it with their fingers. That way they get to practice that muscle memory, whether they can grasp a pencil, pinch it, and write or not. So even students who are nonverbal or don't quite have the concept of holding a writing utensil correctly, they can touch and they think, oh, it goes like this to make an M. Same thing with counting. You could hold up the card. How many letters do you see? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Sorry, choked all of a sudden. Pardon me. That is my book. I do have the back page. Of course, if I had my material, it would be a little thicker. I could actually bind it all together. I have a PDF version of my adapted version plus the original, and then I will upload this video. So thank you so much.